For whom do the 13 bells toll? They toll for thee. Hey guys, I'm Indypride, and the day has finally come. The memes have ended, the Skaven have arrived in all of their pestilent, diseased, and backstabbing glory. A race of technologically advanced humanoid rodents of unusual size from the deepest, darkest, dankest corners of the world, equipped with some of the most insane and destructive weaponry in the entire world. The Skaven are here. The fourth playable race in Total War Warhammer 2, they have been officially announced, and it feels so good. You're gonna want to be around tomorrow, but for now, let's talk about the trailer itself and do a breakdown of what we saw. First things first, we're already like 5 seconds into the trailer and we're getting confirmation of a bunch of units coming our way. This is a rat ogre, a hellish creation of the mad scientists from Clan Molder, those flesh carvers and insane experimenters who live out their lives in Hellpit near Kislev, selling their abominations to the highest bidder. Clan Molder is one of the 4 great Skaven clans, alongside Eshin, Pestilens, and Skryre, and they're responsible for the monsters in the Skaven armies. Rat ogres are surgically augmented, crossbred, and very angry Frankenstein monsters mutated by Warpstone, used as shock troops by the Skaven to break open enemy lines and provide some much needed survivability on the front line, because as we know, little rat men can be a bit squishy. Not that Clan Molder Packmasters care much about the lives of their pets. They're thrown into the meat grinder without hesitation, just like every other unimportant Skaven unit. And we gotta stop it again real quick because we got another look at another unit. Poison Wind Globadiers are also confirmed. These are Skryre support troops with a massive amount of killing power. As you might imagine, poison gas has a terrifying effect on enemy morale, as the very winds can shift these noxious fumes throughout the battlefield, killing all that inhale the green, cloying vapor. It's a truly horrific and excruciating death, essentially causing one to vomit their lungs out, and as often as not, as we know with the Skaven, these vapors will spread to allied troops, usually slaves in the middle of tar pitting an enemy. Friendly fire is not something that Thagaraki care too much about, as we know, and this is true for Warp Lightning cannons as well. We're also confirmed behind the Globadiers, they're a devastating artillery piece designed for providing long-range support in battle. Cannons that are just as likely to dismember and fry their own troops as they are the enemy. The Poison Wind Globadiers throw these little crystal balls that essentially break open and release these noxious fumes, and they will slaughter anything they touch. The bells are tolling, and that means the Screaming Bell is here, a centerpiece unit for the Skaven. From atop these unholy altars, the Grey Seers, the ruling class and most magically adept users in the Under Empire, preach their foul words of corruption and domination. They're used as a rally point for friendlies in the midst of battle, and as the focal point of the enemy's distress, as the tolls of the bell spread unparalleled madness throughout rival ranks. It is a fitting tribute and echo of the origins of the Skaven, the doom of Kavzar, their origin tale from millennia ago, where an unholy bell spelled the ruination of entire civilizations, near Skavenblight. We've gotten a good look at her before, but that's a Dark Elf Dread Lady with a bunch of bleak swords behind her and Brides of Cain in tow. Remember, she's going to be the melee-focused Lord variant for the Dark Elves, while the male Dreadlord has a repeating crossbow and fills the role of a more versatile, slightly less melee-capable Lord. I mean, we've already seen the trailer. Things aren't going to go very well for the Elves or the Lizardmen in this one, but it's a pretty cool shot nonetheless. I really like this shot, it sets the mood super nicely, but you can just make out the outline of rat ogres, plague monks, and plague censer bearers as well. Now here's something really interesting. That was a Dark Elf sorceress casting a vortex spell, and it looks like Blade Wind has been changed from a direct damage spell to a vortex spell. I initially thought that what we saw in that Malekith screenshot about a month ago was Arnsipul's Black Horror, because that's the only vortex spell in the lore of dark magic, but you can see blades dancing throughout the vortex here, so it appears that Blade Wind will be a vortex and not a direct damage spell like it was in the tabletop, kind of similar to Fate of Buna or Spirit Leech, and it seems to also function a bit like Pit of Shades from the lore of Shadow. So maybe a bit more reliable in terms of the damage output and how much the vortex actually moves, which would be a good thing for the lore of dark magic in general, because we do want a more stable damage dealing source out of our vortexes rather than the ones that will get plopped down and then immediately veer off and careen off into the sunset. And yes, Clan Pestilens is confirmed to have a pretty big presence in the game now, considering they're one of the 2 starting clans alongside Clan Moors. They've got their Censor Bearers, they've got their Plague Monks, the Frenzied, Fanatical Devotees of Disease, and the Liber Bubonicus. Really nice touch there. I think they make a lot of sense to be placed in Lustria or the Southlands. It appears that, given the campaign map start and the green color we saw, they'll probably be in Lustria. So very happy to see a big presence from Clan Pestilens in this trailer and obviously presumably the game itself. This is a goddamn Doom Wheel, a magical hamster wheel of death and destruction that shoots warp lightning in all directions and runs over any infantry it touches, crushing them into paste and slicing them into little itty-bitty ribbons. I think this was one of the most anticipated units in the entire trilogy, and at least in the trailer, it delivers. Looks and sounds badass, looks like an absolute blast to use. It's of course a creation of Scryer Ingenious, designed to kill, maim, burn, eviscerate friendly units, and malfunction to disastrous effects on a regular basis. An inherently Skaven piece of tech, probably encapsulates their entire ideas and aesthetic better than any other one unit, and is basically just Skaven tech through and through. Awesome stuff here. Also apparently getting some air like Dave Mirra at the X Games. That was a pretty awesome shot. I really like that touch to it. Okay, so this is a warp Firethrower, spewing warpstone napalm that corrupts and mutates those it doesn't turn immediately into cinder, and frankly, if it gets a hold of you, you're gonna be in for a world of hurt. It attaches itself to and coagulates on the skin, making it almost impossible to wash off, and will burn even underwater, corrupting and causing excruciating pain to anyone or anything it makes contact with. It will slaughter swaths of infantry and drop their leadership in mere seconds, causing even hardy veterans of countless wars to rout from the field as they get covered in this unyielding, sickly green flame. Like many Skaven weapon teams, they operate in groups of 2, one to hold the fuel cells and warpstone machinery feeding the flame, and the other to operate the Firethrower itself. No, your eyes do not deceive you. That is indeed Lord Skrolk, the Plague Lord of Clan Pestilens, and the likely second legendary lord for the Skaven in Total War Warhammer 2. He is a living affront to nature, as corrupting and withering as any of the most diseased presence on the planet, his coming as terrifying and dangerous as the arrival of a great unclean one or any monstrosity of Nurgle. He carries the Liber Bubonicus, the toxic tome of ultimate disease, in which his clan have copied down millennia's worth of knowledge, and he used it to send forth raging and virulent plagues that can consume entire armies and melt the landscape into a paradise of death. Does that mean Thankful is in the game at launch? It might. As far as we know, each faction is only getting 2 starting legendary lords, and that is unquestionably Skrolk, so if he's in the trailer, that might mean Thankful comes as DLC or free LC later down the line. We shall see. I will say that Thankful makes almost as much sense as Skrolk in a Lord pack against the Prophet of Sotek. He even had an entire novel dedicated to his rivalry with them called The Temple of the Serpent, and we know Thankful is going to be in the game at some point. He is the most iconic Skaven Lord in general, most iconic Skaven character, so he'll make it in. It's just a question of whether he'll be DLC or free LC and when that will come out. Welcome to the other confirmed legendary lord, Queek Headtaker, the Dwarf Smiter, warlord of Clan Moors and right hand of Lord Nodwell, one of the members of the Council of 13. Queek is an absolutely awesome character. Not exactly known for his character development over the many novels he made appearances in, but he's a complete badass, a frontline combatant, and ruthless close quarters fighter in a race known for their tendency to literally piss themselves in fear. While the vast majority of the Skaven are conniving, manipulating, cloak and dagger type characters, Queek stands out as an abnormally straightforward warlord, one that makes examples of his enemies for all to see, and one who doesn't shy away from dueling some of the strongest dwarf and greenskin characters in the entirety of Warhammer lore. But that doesn't mean he isn't cunning. There is a reason Clan Moors is in possession of more Gromrel armor than any other Skaven clan in history. Armor they stole from the dwarfs. His ambushes and tactics in the City of Pillars are legendary and have resulted in catastrophic losses for both Belgar Ironhammer and Skarsnik on numerous occasions. I read this passage on my channel once before, back in 2015 when I did my Skaven lore, army, and tactics video, but I want to read it again because there is no other passage in the lore that quite demonstrates Queek Headtaker's ruthless proficiency and terrifying skill in close quarters combat so well. This is from the Black Library novel Headtaker by David Geimer. The creature was abominably fast. A blow from a spiked maul came down on a loader's head even as the thing's feet found solid ground. The spike erupted through the back of the dwarf's spine, the Skaven ducking beneath his own buried weapon to impale the engineer on a sword held in the other paw. The engineer was still working a pistol from his belt as the blade ripped through his mail, entering through the collar and tunneling deep into his belly. The engineer still lived, still fumbling at the buckle of his holster as the Skaven pulled and jerked on his blade to free it. The dwarf screamed, puking blood as serrated teeth chewed at his guts before the Skaven lost patience, leaving the blade in place and putting the dwarf down with a fierce backhand. Hendrik gawped as the Skaven continued his lone rampage. For the first time, he noted the swaying trophy rack like half of a morbidly spoked wheel above the Skaven's shoulders. He saw the trophies that nestled atop it like vultures, a Dawi skull among them. His heart turned to stone at such a violation of an honored ancestor. So this was the infamous Headtaker. His reputation served him well. The surviving gun crew abandoned their machine, turning to flee for the safety of the dwarfish line. The Headtaker pounced on the back of the slowest. The claws of one paw burrowed into the screaming dwarf's scalp as the other sank into the unguarded flesh of his armpit. The Skaven warlord heaved the struggling dwarf from his feet before clamping its fangs around his neck. "Valea, shield her children," Logan breathed, as the dwarf's spine snapped, blood running in rivulets down the warlord's muzzle. Still, the Headtaker thrashed his head from side to side with the dead dwarf in his bloody jaws like the prize of a hunt. Hendrik was compelled to look away as the Headtaker's efforts finally ripped the dwarf's head from his shoulders. Blood fountained, dappling the abandoned organ guns with its dark blessing as the warlord opened his jaws to lap at the sticky rain. So I personally don't have any doubts as to whether or not Queek deserves to be in the game. He is an iconic Skaven character. He has shown up in very many novels. I'm wondering what you guys think of the two starting legendary lords. Are you happy with Skrolk and Queek? I know a lot of you will have preferred Thankwall, but I do think we'll see him. Let me know who you wanted the two starting legendary lords to be. Oh my sweet baby ratmen, praise be to the Horned One, the Screaming One, bow before its majesty, a Hellpit Abomination, the A-Bomb, is on the way, the greatest and most horrific monstrosity of the Skaven of Clan Moulder have ever created, and frankly, I think it's a monster a lot of us didn't expect to ever see. The model is gorgeous in an incredibly terrifying, nightmare-inducing sort of way, super detailed model, and guaranteed to send a lot of your hype trains into maximum overdrive. The creature is a mountain of misshapen flesh that moves in a rippling tide of unnatural spasms, writhing worm-like and using its many limbs to pull and drag its hideous bulk forward. Various mechanical bits such as wheels, cogs, and fluid pumps have been grafted into the beast to ensure it moves at optimal speed, and that the warpstone mutated growth agents are regularly injected into the beast's hyper-fast metabolism. In battle, an abomination sent loose against the enemy is an unstoppable juggernaut. Many foes will flee from the unnatural sight of a Hellpit Abomination long before the creature ever gets close. With a horrifying slither and shamble, the creature propels itself across the battlefield, rearing up to a towering height before it hits the enemy line like a thunderbolt. Vast boulder-sized fists smash aside shield walls and send flows flying, while hungry jaws snap and greedily devour the broken victims. And it can heal. It has a massive amount of regeneration. It can visibly heal wounds, regrow severed limbs, and rise from the dead. Yes, in tabletop, and in the lore. And frankly, I think it'll happen in Total War Warhammer 2 as well, because the Phoenix rules are already in the game for the High Elves. It can come back from the dead. So it goes down to 0 HP, and then there's a chance, don't know what that chance will be yet, that it just revives and comes back to life with at least some of its HP remaining, which is absolutely insane. I cannot wait to see that in action. We don't know yet if it'll die and then literally fall on the ground and then rise again. That would be really cool. In all likelihood, it will probably just go down to 0 HP or like 1 HP and then suddenly get an influx of HP back. But either way, I think that is so incredibly cool. Model's amazing, and seeing it fight that black dragon is truly something spectacular. So all in all, a really big day for the Total War series. Incredibly hyped to see the Skaven finally brought to life in a Total War game. We've had them in mods before, we've had them in older games, but they've never been done this kind of justice. That doesn't mean CA is not going to make any missteps with the faction, but everything I've seen from the articles, everything I've seen in the trailer so far, screams that CA is really doing as much justice to this faction as possible, and I'm excited as hell. Hope you guys loved the trailer. Let me know what your impressions were, and if you noticed anything, if there's anything you didn't like, if there's anything you did like, please let me know. Let's have a good discussion. Let's foster the community here and just have a good time talking about what we saw in the trailer and what we might see going forward. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you guys next time. Indypride signing out for now.